So you have an incredible mission before you, which is really to restore the moral and the creative dignity that our country once enjoyed. So let's stay in Egypt for a moment. When I taught at Stanford years ago, I had a couple of students. One was African American. His name is James Blake, real tall guy, about 6'7", Navy veteran. And the other was a Jewish American woman named Marcia Falk. Sort of, came up to here on me. And they were always fighting each other. These were graduate students. And this was in the 1970s when, social issues were still burning. Everybody thinks it all stopped with the 60s, but the 60s didn't really get going until around 1973 or 1974, the 60s that we think about in the popular context. Marcia accused Jim of being an anti-Semite. Jim accused Marcia of being a racist. But on days when Jim didn't come to class, Marcia would go out the door and look up and down for him, because she wanted him in the class. And vice versa. He would go looking for Marcia on days that she wasn't there. Jim graduated. He was going for a PhD, but he took a terminal MA, as they used to call it, and became a very wonderful teacher in the Salinas Valley and died young, largely from a disorder, brain concussion that he had suffered during his naval duty. Marcia, when she got out of Stanford, she went to the Middle East, and she retranslated. She got the originals and retranslated the Song of Solomon, from the Old Testament in the Bible. And you can buy her translation, which is called Song of Solomon, a new translation by Marcia Falk, and I think it's NYU Press. And one of the main corrections she made in the King James version text, the line that we get is, "I am black but comely." It doesn't say but, it says and. But the power of culture is such that it blinds you to what you see before you. So King James's translators probably unconsciously made a decision, well, you can't be both, so we're going to put but, that kind of thing. So she restored it, and that's behind this poem. And it's from a suite of poems written in Cairo. It was on the 26th floor of the Semiramis Hotel, downtown Cairo. Up one window, you could see the pyramids of Giza. When the smog, if you think LA has smog, you go to Cairo. When the smog would lift. And out the other window was the Nile. So as a poet, especially as an African-American poet, I never wanted to leave the room. I could just sit up there and write poetry all day. Milky light of night. Milky light of night, all oil along the Nile. What stars, what moons have come to your rescue, time after time after time, in this land of richness and multitudes. When my darkened people sang, "Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go," we were going for broke, my friends. We were crying from a wilderness that never got cleared. Most of us knew only an Old Testament Egypt, an Egypt of parchment, a colonialized kaleidoscope of wonders and signs. Few knew Nubia. Few knew about the black but comely clause planted by King James's color-crazed translators in the Song of Solomon. There was no but there to pound beauty into sand. The right word was and. Here in this fertile light, on this motherly soil, captor and captive, actor and activity connect. Now when the Negro speaks of rivers, she will have to explain more than the parting of the Red Sea. She'll have to own the droughts, the floods, the Siwa oasis in the desert, arrow and bow, Pharaoh and Jew.